I wish I had $1 for every leasing agent that told me the biggest objection that he or she got was the price of the rent. Hey everybody, I'm Matt Easton, the founder of Leasing University, the #1 training platform for leasing agents, for property managers in the world. Check us out over at leasinguniversity.com. Hey, I want to talk to you today about that thing that you think is the biggest objection that you get. The price of the rent. It's stressful, it's difficult, and we all think our rents are too high. If you think your rents are too low, please comment below. But I'm gonna help you deal with that objection that you think is happening to the price of the rent right here, right now. Let's go. The price of the rent is a very complex objection. It's got a ton of moving parts. Their budget, your affordability, your amenities, your location, your ability to communicate as a leasing agent. Hey, the only common denominator that all these complex price objections have is their buying signals. When your renter is complaining or objecting about the price of your rent, without a doubt, that's a signal that they probably want to rent that apartment from you. When the renter says, I can get pretty much the same apartment down the street for less money, that's the leasing agent being sold by the renter. Listen, if leasing agents spend half as much time selling their prospects as they do trying to sell their regional managers or their property managers, or their property owners, that the rent is too high, hey, that property would be 100% occupied. A major part of this price of the rent problem is that many leasing agents believe that their rents are actually worse than the competition down the street. Fortunately, there's 2 fixes for this problem if you believe that your rents are worse. #1, you can change your belief, or #2, you can change the property that you work at. You can go get another job. You can go work over there. But I'm going to tell you right now, as your friend in leasing in life, throughout my entire career, every time I've seen a leasing agent change jobs because they felt that their rents were too expensive, guess what? As soon as they unpacked their stuff and settled in their brand new leasing office at their brand new job, they started to have the exact same issues. Fundamentally, let's work on your belief that your rents are too expensive. Let's change your beliefs so you don't have to change your job. Let me give you some tips right now. Here are my 4 don'ts when it comes to dealing with the rent. These 4 tips, these 4 techniques are going to help you out tremendously. #1, don't volunteer or encourage rent reductions. What do I mean by this? I mean starting with, hey, we've got rent specials. Our current specials are this, or even worse, what I call wowing at the price. Hey, I'm about to tell you what the rent is and I know it's expensive, but, or I know you love the apartment, let's talk about the rent. Are you sitting down? Or buckle up, or our rents are high. Don't encourage rent reductions. When you talk like that, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure. #2, don't say anything but the rent is. When you are asked about the rent, your answer is the rent is blank, and you tell them what the rent is. Don't put anything in front of it of currently our rents are, or we're running specials and they are, or the current rent of the property is. Now, I know a lot of you are using LRO, okay? Or you have real-time pricing. This is gonna be a bit of a challenge for you, but I need you to change your dialogue. I need you to change your vocabulary. When somebody asks you the price of the rent and you have dynamic rents, you get the price of the rent and you say the rent is $1,495. You don't say, hey, we use LRO and currently the price of this apartment is $1,498. All you are doing when you open that door is insinuating that the price is flexible, and when your renter hears flexible, what do they think? They're gonna get the price of the rent to go down. So when you are asked about the rent, what are the 3 words that you say in front of the price? The rent is. Nothing goes in front of rent other than the word the. #3, don't suggest positive reduction to the renter. What do I mean by this? Positive reduction is when you are talking in terms with your prospect of things like, let me see what I can do. Let me talk to my regional. Let me just double check to make sure that we don't have any other promotions that I don't know about. Listen, if you're gonna check into this stuff, if you're gonna talk about your renter, about the price with your regional, do it on your own. Don't have this discussion with your prospect. Because when you say things like, let me see what I can do, let me talk to my regional manager, your prospect hears an implication that you are going to be able to reduce the rent. So you're putting yourself in a lose-lose scenario. Number one, if you're unable to reduce the price of the rent, well, guess what? You've lost the lease. Number two, if you do talk to your regional or you do find that special that you didn't know about and you get the rent reduced, there's no value conveyed to your prospect because you implied that they were going to get that reduction anyways. So simply don't have that type of dialogue in front of your prospect, with your prospect. Just don't do it. Number four, don't say to your renter, we're competitive or we're affordable or anything other than the rent is. Listen, you're providing them with a great apartment. And your team is going to provide them with great service. Having a great apartment and having a great service costs money. We all know this. Don't devalue your value that you're going to bring to your residents by saying things like, well, we're very, very competitive on the price. Listen, selecting your apartment, selecting where you're going to live is one of the most important decisions that your renters can make. If you need a brain surgeon, you don't go and talk to brain surgeons that say, hey, my price is very competitive. No! You want the best darn brain surgeon that you can get. It's your brain. You don't want to die. Now, we're not too far off of that when it comes to selecting an apartment. They've got to live in this apartment. They're going to build their life in this apartment. They've got to go to bed in this apartment every night. They've got to wake up in this apartment every morning. So don't do that. Don't bring the value, don't bring the importance of this decision down by saying things like, our rents are very competitive. Just simply say, the rent is. Don't put yourself in that position. Let me give you quickly 6 things that you can do to protect the value of your rents, to protect your rent integrity, and 6 things that you can do to stop these arguments and these objections happening over and over again about the price of your rent. Number 1, support the price of the rent that you give as the true price of the rent. Instead of saying, let me see what I can do, try this. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why it's $1,498. We are the best community in town. We've got the best location. You told me that you want to be able to bike to work. Remember this. Instead of saying, let me see what I can do, say, let me tell you why. Number 2, use the fact that you have higher rents or the renter perceives that your rent is higher, or they're lying to you and saying that your rent is higher. But either way, use the fact that you have higher rents to sell your property. You're a better property. You're a better fit for your prospect. You're a better community. They've got you, the best leasing team in the world. Of course, the price is going to be a little bit more. Use that to your advantage. You pay more, you get more. You get what you pay for. It's better to pay a little bit extra and get exactly what you want than to save a little bit and make a mistake. Use that perception that your rents are higher to your advantage. Number 3, use testimonials. Now, we have an entire course at Leasing University about how to get testimonials. Testimonials are wonderful. When a prospect is complaining about the rent, this is a great opportunity to guide them over to the testimonials and say, hey, I get it. I totally understand. Everyone that lives here felt the exact same way about the rent, and everybody that lives here is paying that same rent that you're going to be paying. And they love living here. Let me show you why. Let's go and take a look at some of these testimonials. Use these positive testimonials that you learned how to collect to your advantage, especially when it comes to objections about the price of your rent. Testimonials are tailor-made for this. Number 4, sell your competitive edge, not the price of your rent. I can't tell you how many times that I call properties and I hear things like, well, the cheapest our rent is, or we're the cheapest rent in town, or we're the best value in town. Those leasing agents aren't going to last long in the business unless they change their belief, unless they change their mindset, and unless they change their sales process. You need to sell your competitive edge, not your price. Even if your property is affordable, you still have a competitive edge. Learn what your competitive edge is. Learn how that matches up with your prospects and sell that rather than your price. Number 5, sell your future resident on the relationship rather than the price. Listen, a price, that's it. That's the price. Oh, $1,498. That's a lot of money. Now, if you give them a discount, that discount lasts 2 seconds long, and then they go to Best Buy or they go out to dinner and they spend whatever money they spent on that discount. But when you talk in terms of the relationship, I completely understand it's $1,498. Listen, Becky, in order to service you and the rest of our residents at this property in the manner that you expect to be served and in the manner that we hold ourselves to, we have to charge this amount of rent. Sell them on the relationship. Sure, it's a little bit more, but they're gonna love living here. They are going to get the value for their money. Number 6, sell everything but your price. When I call properties, I can't tell you how many times they lead with price on the phone. What's your budget? Our rent is this. It's price, price, price. The real elite pros out there of leasing are going to be selling everything about that apartment and everything about that community other than the price. We're the best location. We've got the greatest pool. We've got the greatest staff. All the families. One thing I love living here is there's this little circle drive and all the kids in the morning. You can see all the moms and dads with the little kids in their backpacks, and that's where the school bus picks them up. It's right in front of the apartment. You gotta come by on a school. You've got kids, bring your kids, come by on a school morning. You gotta check out the vibe that we've got in the mornings when everybody's getting ready to jump off for school. Sell that value, sell that sense of community, sell your amenities, whatever it is, I want you to sell that rather than the fact that your rent is X or your price is this or your specials are this. Sell everything but your price. Statistics show that most specials, that most cuts in the rent come from leasing agents, not renters. And most complaints, most real founded complaints and objections come from the leasing agent. They stem from the leasing agent and not the renter. It's the leasing agent's perception that the rent is too high that bleeds over to your prospects. I want you to think about that. Your mindset and your belief is paramount to what your prospect believes. They don't shop for an apartment every day. This is not something that they do every week. This is not something that they are educated on. So when they make a simple complaint about the price, that's all that really is a complaint, because they don't know what it costs for an apartment in today's market, at today's property, with today's amenities. Those discounts are coming from you. And those objections, most of the time, they're stemming from you. You start the fire and you continue to add wood to it. So I want you to think about that. Your belief on the rent is far more important, and it's paramount to your prospect's belief that the price of the rent is too expensive. I want to leave you with a few short rules that I have that we teach at Leasing University when it comes to the price of the rent. Resident rule number 1, price is the first thing that your resident is going to forget if they've got an issue. If they need maintenance or they've got a problem with their neighbor, price is the first thing that they're going to forget. Leasing agent rule number 1, you must rent your apartments. You have to have a system in place to be able to rent your apartments at the price that your property management, that your owners set for that property. Why? Because profit has to exist in order for you to service your residents. You can't properly service your resident if the community does not have the funds available to provide that level of service. So you've got to learn right here and right now how to deal with these price objections, because you want to provide that great service after they've signed the lease. Leasing rule number 1. Don't give the price of the rent. Don't even talk about rent. Don't offer the price of the rent until you're asked. So many leasing agents make this mistake. They offer up the price of the rent right in the beginning. When you wait to be asked the price of the rent, this is the single biggest buying signal that you're going to get. This is how you differentiate. Do I have somebody that's potentially wasting my time? Do I have somebody that may not be as serious as the next person? When somebody asks you, hey, by the way, what's the rent on this unit? That's a buying signal, and that's how you know, all right, all systems go. I am in the game to get this lease. So make sure that you save that for yourself. Don't offer up the price of the rent first. Let them ask you, because then you know you've got a serious prospect sitting in front of you or talking to you on the phone. Answer price of the rent questions with confidence and conviction. The way that you deliver your answer when a prospect asks you about the price of your rent is going to make the difference between you not getting the lease and you signing that lease. If you have any problems at all, I want you to practice. If you need a system in place, check us out over at Leasing University. But you need to get to the point where you can answer any questions that have to do with the price of your rent with clarity, with confidence, with conviction. That's how the pros do it, and that's how I need you to do it. All right, owners, don't kill me. Management companies don't kill me. The big REITs, the executives don't get mad at me, but I'm gonna give you guys, the leasing agents, a secret indicator. As an owner of properties myself, as owners, we know that we have priced a community right when our leasing agents start complaining about the price of the rent. So just know this. When you start complaining about the price of the rent, or you're nervous that your rents might be too high, that is a great indicator that this property is priced right for the marketplace. It is priced right to where we're going to be able to provide an excellent apartment, an excellent service at a fair price so that we can keep our residents happy and we can keep them renewing. You want to make sure that you're always setting yourself up for success for that renewal. Otherwise, you're going to be having to rent that same apartment over and over again every 6 months, every 9 months, every 12 months, every 18 months, however long the term of the lease is that you sign. If you don't provide that value, you're going to have to do all of this work over and over again. So just know this, if you're nervous about the price a little bit, that's a great indicator that your apartment is actually priced right. And I want to leave you with this. Make sure that you have a process in place to where you're selling the perceived value of that apartment and not just the price of the rent. There is so much value that goes into someone's home. It's your job as a leasing agent to be able to connect their life, their wants, their needs, their hopes and dreams with the value that you're going to be able to provide them by them living here at your apartment community. It's not just about the price of the rent. In fact, it's hardly ever about the price of the rent. It's the value that you're going to be able to deliver those renters and those prospects once they become your trusted, loved, and valued residents. If you need a process that's going to help you take your prospects from beginning to end all the way through, that builds that value every step of the way so you don't get pushback when it comes to the rent, I would love it if you would check out leasinguniversity.com, or I'd be more than happy to come out and train you and your people in a live setting. You can always reach my office at 888-735-7451. I want you to stop stressing about price. I want you to take to heart everything that I went over with you today. And until the next video, I want you to be great, and I want you to get those leases. 500 of the top property management companies work with Leasing University. We conduct 100 live apartment leasing training events per year. We help our clients sign over 100,000 additional leases per year, adding $2 billion to their revenue. Leasing consultants that have access to Leasing University lease 7 times more apartments than the rest of the industry. Leasing University is new. Leasing University is game-changing, and Leasing University will get you 7 times more leases. Listen, the apartment industry has changed. The way people rent apartments today is totally different than it was yesterday. Today's renter has more access to information, and they've got more choices in apartments than they've ever had before. If you're struggling to get leases, it's most likely not your location, it's not your amenities, and it's not your price. It's your sales training. If you've been made to sit through a boring class or unrealistic online training, and you're not getting the skills that you need to work with renters, to help you handle their objections, and to make sure you close the lease and rent the apartment, well, that ends today with Leasing University. Our simple, fun, and exciting step-by-step online training and live events will give you the skills and confidence that you need to lease 7 times more apartments. Earn your certified leasing consultant credential in less than 30 days with Leasing University. Simply click on the link to get started and head over to leasinguniversity.com now to start your training.